Hello and welcome back to another episode of We Read It One Night. We are bringing you a re-release of Rachel's introduction to dark romance, even though this is more dark romance light, with part 1 of Twisted Love by Ana Huang. This episode was so much fun to record and this book was so much fun to read, so we really hope you enjoy it. While you're listening, please leave us a rating and review because it's the best way to support us and to bring in new listeners and bring new people into the We Read It One Night family. And also, why not check out our Etsy store, which is linked in the description while you are at it. We cannot wait to see you soon and to bring you new episodes, but in the meantime, enjoy the show. I'm entering my baby spice era.
Why? Well, obviously, yeah.
2 little pigtails, listener.
It looks so cute. I like it a lot.
My hair in a pixie cut a few months ago. If you don't follow us on socials, I guess you don't know that. But it's long enough now that, like, if I were to just, like, leave it down, I would look like a Karen and a scene kid had a baby in, like, the worst way possible. So I have to put them up in 2 little pigtails, but it's okay because now I'm baby spice.
When my hair was short and I was growing out, I always put it in, like, 2 low pigtails. I don't know why. I don't think it ever occurred to me to do those, but I wish it had.
Well, your hair, like, my hair's longer on top. You know,
That's true,
your hair was the universal length. My hair's, I can't put the bottom of my hair. It's not long enough yet. Unfortunately, it's not professional, so I always have to, like, try to, like, clip it back or something whenever I have, like, an outside work call.
Oh, the pigtails?
Like, I had my, like, evaluation today, and I was like, well, I can't wear my baby spice pigtails to this evaluation.
Who decided that that's not professional? It's ridiculous. Like, what?
You know what is unprofessional? Alex Volkov, who is the hero of this book, Twisted Lies by Ana Huang. This is a listener-suggested author, not a listener-suggested book. And this is the first book in her Twisted series, which I have no data to back this up, but I assume is her most popular series because it's the one that I always see on, like, Bookstagram and Book Talk when people talk about her. It is, I would say, like, it's dark romance, but I would say, like, it's dark romance light. So, like, I've definitely read much, much darker romance. I would say this is probably, like, the most tame the dark romance gets. So, like, if you've ever wanted to dip your toes into dark romance and you want to, like, start out with something a little bit, like, tamer, I would say this is, like, probably a pretty good entry book. Because, like, if you hate the hero in this book because he's, like, a stalker and, like, violent, then, like, your dark romance is probably just not going to be for you. But if you can get into this book, then
I hate the hero in this book, not primarily. I don't hate him, but it wasn't the stalking and the violence. It was the fact that he's an asshole to his employees and just people in general. Like, he's just like a walking, I don't know how to, he's just like a walking red flag of, like, a male Karen.
Of, like,
Alison, so many times he would be like, my employees are afraid of me because I'm such an asshole. He literally, at the end, Alison, he's like, I have a better work-life balance now. I leave the office at 6, which I'm sure makes my employees really happy. He's literally, like, constantly talking. How did you miss that?
I don't know. The only thing I remember is in the beginning, he has a really incompetent secretary and he's like, I need to fire her. And then at the end, his secretary
is afraid of him.
He's like mean to his secretary, but it's because he's heartbroken. He's lashing out, Rachel.
Yeah, that's not acceptable. He's an asshole to his employees no matter what. I just don't understand. He's a Karen is what he is.
I don't know.
He's literally,
apply.
It 100% applies. Why? Because he's a man? Like, I don't understand.
No, I just don't think.
He's mean to service workers and employees.
He is the manager. He doesn't ask to speak to the manager. He's the manager.
Yeah, he's just the worst kind of person.
All right.
Like, what?
I really like this book.
I don't know how
I just really let that kind of, like, wash over me.
Yeah, into my pores.
I will say that dark romance usually doesn't involve being mean to service workers, or service workers usually just don't factor.
He also is, like, there's just, like, so many, like, little red flags that would be, like, red flags in normal people, like, even outside the stalking. Like, the fact that he, like, we get insights into his, like, road rage multiple times. He's like, everyone's an idiot and they all drive slow. How the fuck did you miss that? It's like 4 separate times he has that exact thought.
No, he only does that one time when he's racing to the airport.
It's in the beginning too. He goes through 0 character growth, Alison. His character stays exactly the same.
To the airport.
And at the beginning he's not racing anywhere. He might be racing to get Anna in that unnecessary like stalker move.
No, he's going to get Ava, not
Uh-huh.
Anna. That's Anna's the author.
Yeah.
Ava, who got pushed in a pool, Rachel, and you know she can't swim. Okay,
no, it's another time in the beginning.
We're skipping ahead. But I think you have already gotten the vibe, dear listener, of where we fall on the spectrum of this book. I love this book.
He's just like a bad person in the classic bad person.
I was wildly entertained by this. I have already downloaded the second book in the series.
Also,
I'm going to listen to it on our vacation.
He doesn't even have any mafia ties. Like, he's just like a Joe
That's why
Schmo.
I'm saying it's like dark romance.
Yeah, I know.
Light, because it wasn't like mafia. It wasn't motorcycle club. It wasn't any sort of like Bratva or whatever. Like, it was.
Why is it called a motorcycle club instead of a motorcycle gang?
I don't know, man. I just know that's what it's called. That's why it was just like rich man who is very domineering and violent and controlling. I don't know. Rachel, I just think maybe dark romance just isn't for you. Like, you have to be able to like get past all
but again, the things that I hated the most about him have nothing to do with the dark romance elements. He's just a dick.
It's all part of the dark romance elements. That's the thing, is you have to just be able to like go with the flow. You have to be like, in real life, horrible. I don't want any of this. In book world, I'm ready to like release my inhibitions.
Why? Why are you into him being like rude to his people below him?
I'm not into him being rude to his employees, but also I didn't really notice that.
How could you not notice it?
I only noticed when he had an incompetent secretary, and I was like, well, she's incompetent, so like I don't really care.
She wasn't actually incompetent. That's his unreliable narration. She was like totally like.
No, he only hired her because she was as a favor to like a senator or whatever. And like she kept giving people his personal phone number.
Oh, she did it one time. And then we found out that his uncle was orchestrating the whole thing as CEO. It's ridiculous. I was like, wow, that was an escalation.
Anyway, I didn't really notice him being mean to service employees. I noticed him being mean to everybody else. But I just think dark romance isn't for you, Rachel. It's okay.
No, because like, again, I don't know how you could skate over that.
Again, Rachel, All right. It's like, continue. You know what it is? It's like how it's comparable to how like it's something like 25% of women have like rape fantasies.
No, but it's not that, Alison, because I totally understand that. Like, I am one of them. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about here. He's a dick in the traditional, not dark romance, not broody hero sense. He's a bad he's a bad character. I don't think it has anything to do with the dark romance. He's I'm trying to think, what's the word for it? Like Karen.
All of those things make up the like broody dark romance alpha hero.
No, it shouldn't. It should be like no, because I feel like I can't even like put my finger on, like, I've definitely read other things where it's like,
I don't think you've ever read dark romance before. I don't think you've ever read another dark romance. You never read any of the mafia romances that I recommend you. I don't know. Okay, so listener, you can tell this is a very polarizing book.
Listen. Remember how we watched that movie? No, it's not that polarizing. I'm coming off as if I hated it a lot more than I enjoyed it. I enjoyed probably like 87% of it, at least. Like, I thought it was good. It was a good story. I thought it was good. I'm coming off too much. I'm just like, I just want you to agree with me on these points, because
I agree that it's bad to be rude to service workers and Alex your employees. Was. However, he was never rude to service workers.
I'm like, it's the same category. That's the same kind of thing.
B, I didn't really notice him being mean. Like again, like the two times.
I'm sure I wrote it down point by
at the beginning, and I was like, frankly, she deserves it. Like, why would you give away your boss's private phone number? And in the end, I was like, well, he's heartbroken, so it's like the classic romance hero trope.
No, okay,
and then he quits,
I'm sure I wrote it down. Maybe not.
Okay,
no, and then he comes back. Okay. Remember in the 20s when we watched that? Oh my god, what the fuck is it even called? That like it was like Bulgarian or some shit. That movie,
365 days. Which the third. I saw the trailer for the third one. Rachel, we still have to watch the second one.
We couldn't get through the second one because Mom couldn't handle it. Remember?
No, we tried to start watching the first one and Mom couldn't handle it. We didn't even start the second one.
Okay, we need to watch it. Okay. Well, okay. Remember we were talking about how like a lot of times the redeeming characteristic will be like they'll be like like sex slavery or like child, and you know, like
Oh,
something.
yeah, he's not
and
involved.
that's like the redeeming quality is he's like, that's what I'm putting my foot down on. Like I will
draw
kill
the line at human trafficking.
I don't believe that Alex would even do that is the problem. Like that's the thing. And I feel like little things like not being a dick boss would have served that same purpose. Like obviously that's not on the same level, but like I feel like that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of like foil that would have been needed. Like he just needed to not be like that. or he needed to undergo some character growth at the end, because he doesn't. He's never like, oh, I shouldn't have been addicted to them. He's like, oh, well, because I have a better personal life now, I'm leaving at 6, which means I only terrorize them until 6 p.m. and not like midnight. Yes.
He's learned to love.
No, he has. He goes through zero character growth.
Ice blue eyes and
zero
an ice
growth.
blue heart at the beginning, and
zero growth.
He learns to love.
Okay. No. Also, he's a vampire, so he can't change.
No, he becomes such a simp for her.
He does, but not really for anyone else. Not even. He doesn't go. We'll get. Right, let's jump into it.
He goes to Vermont for her. Rachel, he hates Vermont,
but she's still not allowed to talk to any men.
She's not allowed to fuck any men.
No, she's not allowed to talk to them. Allison, when I tell you
that
by the end of this, every time Ava started having a conversation with any man, I literally had like a nervous response. I was like, oh my God, Alex is gonna come in. Like can you imagine living like that? Do you know what I'm talking about though? Like what's the word for that? Like when you're like it's not like full on PTSD, but it's like, what's the word for that, you know? Like when you're walking on eggshells. You're walking on eggshells at all times.
You're not going to get me to agree with you.
Anyway, let's jump right in.
This book was just pure. I was like, hell yeah. I thought it was also really hot. I'm going to be honest. I was like really turned on for a lot of this book.
All right. Ava is a baby.
Okay, wait.
She's in college.
Okay. Can we introduce the characters? So we have Alex Volkov, who is our rich man. He's 27.
26 at the beginning of this.
He turns 27.
Alison, he's 26. He's been planning for decades. Wait. I want to do it with my Ava is still in fucking college. She's 22. She goes to, I forget what the college is called, but it's basically supposed to be like Harvard. It's not Tufts. It's not a real name, but it's supposed to be like Harvard. It's like really
that was a different book. I was reading a different book in which they also went
Tufts
to school.
Tufts is a real school. Anyway, it's like really good school, but she's going for photography, and she has a brother. She has a brother, Josh, and Alex and Josh are best friends from when they both went to said college together. And her brother, Josh, I think this is really funny. Like, he's basically like just like that creepy guy that never moves away from the college campus area. Like, that's seriously him. And she's like, oh, and he's leaving for a year, like upcoming soon. And she's like, oh, everyone's going to miss him and his parties. And I'm like, no, they're fucking creep. Like, no one likes that guy. Like, get out of here.
Everyone's going to look 10 years down the line and be like, wow, that was really weird that like grown ass man kept holding parties for college kids.
People think it was weird like at the time too, I feel like.
Here's the thing though. Well, so Josh is there because Josh is like what, 25, 26? I don't know whether he's the same age as Alex.
I think he is.
Whatever.
He's like 4 years older than her.
But I was confused about this. So first of all, Josh is really protective of Ava. Like that's why they live next door to each other. That's important. Remember that they live next door to each other. He's really protective of Ava, which is like why he's still there. Like he's not as protective as Alex, but
he's also in medical school, I guess. Like,
well, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so that was my question. So Josh is leaving to essentially do like Doctors Without Borders for a year, but I guess he's like just graduated medical school, so I guess he's like taking a gap year between like medical school and residency or something. But yeah, I was confused. I was like, was Josh still in college up until this point? Because that's kind of what it felt like.
No, he wasn't.
That Josh was like graduating med school. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe med school, unclear.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so Josh like technically was still going to college. He wasn't just like the creep living near campus. He was like actually going to campus.
I guess.
Because we don't actually know that anyone besides
I don't know.
Ava
that's still pretty.
Friend,
that's still not
sure. But to be fair to the party, to be fair to Josh, we don't know that anyone beside any undergraduate besides Ava and her 3 friends are invited to that party. Like we don't get confirmation. So it could just be like Josh's friends. They also live in DC, so like, you know, like they're in a city.
No, because she says He's lived in the same crumbling house since undergrad. He's a town favorite, and I imagine people would probably miss his parties. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
He lives in DC, you know? That's
Okay,
a pretty big, it's not a small town in Vermont.
Well, sure, but then what is that? Why does that make it more? What do you mean? I don't know what the point of that is.
I'm saying his guests aren't like,
Maybe. I don't know. Just the way he was
certainly,
describing
you
it.
know
Like,
what I
he
mean?
still
Like-
lives in the frat house. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Josh is like fine in all other ways, pretty like for the most part. So Ava wants to be a photographer. She's coming back from a shoot and she like needs to be picked up. She has to like it's Josh's birthday, right? So she calls Josh. Like, I forget why she doesn't have a ride. She's like stranded. She's dumb. I don't know.
Oh, needs to go pick up the cake or something, and like
I don't know. She's stranded. And so Josh is like, I'll send my friend Alex to get you.
So Ava's waiting by the side of the road. And it's like starting to rain and whatever. But Rachel, did you notice this? Because this is the first note that I took for this book. She's thinking about wild bears.
Oh my God. No, I didn't.
Like, I'm in the middle of the woods, like on a dark road. What if a wild bear comes out?
Oh my God.
I was like, well, Ava, if you listen to the early episodes of our podcast, you would know how to survive that bear encounter.
Oh my God. And she does have pepper spray because her brother got that for her birthday. And I was like, oh my God. Like, that's like someone buying unasked for socks for your birthday. Like, why? Like, functional socks.
Like mom, like when I went to college. It's like,
yeah, but that's not for your birthday present.
Yes.
Like,
no, he offered to get it for me as a birthday present.
I guess. I don't know.
And the only reason he didn't is because pepper spray is illegal in New York City.
Yeah. So Josh rolls up to get her. Like, we find out he's like super smart. He's a genius. He's, quote, the only one in Thayer's history, that's the school, Thayer, that finished the joint undergrad MBA program in 3 years. And she's like, wow, it's so impressive. And I'm like, that is, I don't know. I just feel like an MBA is like not, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bitch. I don't know. Whatever. I just feel like a business undergrad is like not that hard. And then an MBA is mostly like MBAs are mostly for like schmoozing and like, you know what I mean? I feel like it's mostly to say you have an MBA. It's not, you don't actually like learn anything. I don't know. Whatever. We'll take it as a given.
I've never had an MBA. I had a business minor. Like, that's my experience with it.
And was it hard? Like, what?
I mean, it wasn't, but also it was a minor. Like, I had to take basically all intro level classes, and like that was it. Like, I never took any like advanced business classes.
Anyway, I'm sorry. If you have a business degree, that's great. I just feel like not that it's not useful. It's just like,
if you have a business degree, I think probably the most useful thing you learn from a business degree is like how to program Excel.
Right. Anyway,
Josh is in the middle of sex when he picks up.
Oh,
he's in the middle. And listener, if you're like, that's a little weird that this man is picking up the phone in the middle of the sex.
It's not the last time.
Fear not. It is not the last time we will see this occur.
Anyway, she's like, hi Alex, like, we need to stop and get Josh's cake. And he's like, no.
Wait.
He's always grumpy. What?
You skipped over a few things. So first of all, when it starts to rain, this is when we get the first introduction to she has some sort of traumatic backstory / phobia that has to do with water, and she can't remember anything before the age of 9. But she's like, oh, it's not the rain. So I was like, okay, so it has to have something to do with drowning, which we learn it does. And that triggered my memory, Rachel, of the time when you tried to drown me.
No.
When I was a child.
Get out of here.
Listener, we had a pool in our house growing up. Rachel was like, I can swim without a life vest, you loser, basically, to me. I'm paraphrasing here. And she convinced me to take off my life vest and go in the pool. And then she scurries on over to the adults in the deep end. And she's like, look at me, to distract them. And then I start walking in the pool and just walk in until it goes above my head. And the only reason I'm not dead is because our mom saw me from the kitchen window and was like, ah!
Your story changed on this. I did not. You taunted yourself.
You taunted me. You taunted Rachel.
This part of the story appeared like 5 years ago and never before.
No, it didn't. Yes. You want to know why? Because I wrote about it in in the 5th grade, we had to make like an all about me journal. And the first story that I wrote in the all about me journal was about how you tried to kill me.
Let me see it.
When I was
10. Guarantee it doesn't say that.
When I was 10.
Like, it definitely doesn't say anything about me, like me saying anything.
It 100%. is about how you tried to kill me. I literally wrote it at like the age of 10 or 11. So,
Okay, we'll find it.
Anyway, listener, you don't listen to our podcast to listen to our squabble, but just know that like this was in the back of my mind throughout my reading experience.
Find it.
And find it I did. Hi, listener. Editing Alison here, and I just want to step in here to say that approximately 2 weeks after we recorded this podcast episode, we did a clean out of the family office, and lo and behold, what did I find in a binder tucked away in the corner but an essay that I wrote in the 5th grade detailing how Rachel tried to drown me at the tender age of 4. And now back to the book, which is why you're actually listening to this podcast. Alex drives up in an Aston Martin because, you know, and the minute you hear that his last name is Volkov, you know what you're in for if you are a dark romance reader like me. I knew exactly who this man would be the moment I heard his name was Alex Volkov, and he fulfilled every single one of my expectations. He's also super smart and already a multi-millionaire because he invented a computer program as a child.
The Aston Martin is also the first clue of many, many, many clues that we get in this, that this is either heavily inspired by Twilight or the author loves Twilight, or my personal theory is that it started off as a Twilight fan fiction, which is great. But just the number of times, as in case you're going over your head, Edward Cullen also has an Aston Martin, and that's quite literally the only time I've ever heard that kind of car mentioned. Like
James Bond.
Yeah, allegedly.
It's James Bond's car. What are you talking about? It's James Bond's car.
Does anyone actually like say that though?
Yes.
You say I'm driving an Aston Martin and James Bond.
Yeah. Yes.
When would you have watched James Bond before the age of 10?
I had a crush on Pierce Brosnan, and so I watched his James Bond movies.
Ava wants to stop and get the cake. Josh says no because her like shirt is drenched, so he's like, you can see your nipples, and she's like really embarrassed. And then she says, I wanted to strangle him, but quote, I was usually a non-violent person, end quote. Second Twilight reference.
And she's like, you could have told me. And he's like, I told you now.
Yeah.
And okay, wait, I can't go a moment further without talking about the audiobook narrators for this book. Listener, if you have the chance to read this book on audio, I guarantee it will enhance your reading experience by
for sure.
1,000%. Mm-hmm. The Ava narrator, she's fine. She's like a regular, like.
Oh, I was gonna say the opposite. I thought the Ava one was really good. The Alex
No, I thought she was fine. Like she was fine, but I wasn't like, she was a good audiobook narrator, but I wasn't like, the Alex narrator. You know what he sounded like? You know what I could picture him saying? What's that? It's like a commercial or a jingle where it's like, oh yeah, burr, burr, and then has like music.
Are you sure you're not thinking of the 10 Things I Hate About You? Ferris Bueller, yeah.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that thing, like, yeah, that really deep voice that I can't do. The audiobook narrator's voice was so deep, and I was like, I felt it in my bones. It was so, I was like, this is quite frankly, like, apart from Ileana Kadushin as Bella Swan, this is like the best audiobook casting I've ever heard in my entire life.
See, I thought it was okay. I thought the Ava one was really good just because she like sounded like a real person. I don't know how to describe it. But I don't like when the audiobook narrator's voice are too deep just because it like makes it so hard to hear. Like I have to adjust the volume every time. It's so annoying. And even then, even at top volume, sometimes. I
didn't have that experience. But no, I know what you mean. I usually don't like when it's super deep. But for some reason, like his voice, like the resonance of his voice, and it just like the fact that it was so deep just really worked for this character. And I really enjoyed it a lot.
Happy for you.
Hats off, whatever your name is. I didn't write his name.
But they said it at the beginning and the end, like for each of them, and they each did like introductions.
Great, I didn't listen to that.
So another thing I thought was funny was, as evidence that she's normally a nonviolent person, Ava is like, I didn't eat gingerbread cookies for a year after watching Shrek because I felt like I was eating Gigi's family members, which is the first. When I was a kid, I wouldn't eat anything shaped like a person or an animal, like animal crackers, goldfish, gummy bears, like gummy worms, vitamin gummies, like any shit like that. Face cakes with faces on them. And this is the first like even like oblique evidence I've gotten that like someone else feels this way. However, it is also the first. So Ava's like whole thing, we're hit over the head with this. She's just so, it's Grumpy Sunshine. She's so sunny, so cheery. She's such a good person. Like she's so good and so nice and she's so smiley. But we're never actually given any evidence of her being a good person. Like not that she's a bad person, but like all that we get is that she smiles a lot and is like happy, go lucky. But like,
Okay, I would disagree that the book tries to make us think that she's a good person or that she's like kind. I don't think that's what the
Alex
book
says
is
it
trying to
so
tell
many
us.
times.
The
He's like, you
book
just
is
bring so much
telling us
light.
that she's that she's optimistic and that she's smiley and that she's cheerful. But that doesn't translate to me to being like, oh, she's a nice person. She's like saint-like.
We're never even given any evidence that she's optimistic. We're just
She
told
is.
that.
She's
About what?
About Alex.
Is she?
And she's always like, she has like her like psycho ex is stalking her named Liam. Her psycho ex Liam is stalking her. And she's just like, oh, you know, it's over. Like, whatever. She's like, it's in the past. I don't know. She's I don't think the book was trying to tell us that she was like saint-like or like a good person. I didn't get that vibe at all.
Alex tells us she's a good person, but we're not like given anything.
Yeah, but that's because he's like, I'm dirty and broody. And
right.
bad.
But like he's like, you bring light to my life, but like she doesn't. Like, I don't know. Anyway, somehow we get to like him being like, even if you weren't Alex's sister, even if you weren't Josh's sister, you're not my type. And then we get into Alex's POV. We learn that he's, quote, not into hardcore BDSM, end quote. Like, okay.
We don't even get any BDSM in this book. I would like to say he never ties her up. There's no blindfolds.
Wait.
He gags her once with her own underwear.
What is subdom? What is that called?
It's BDSM.
Is that part of that? Because there's definitely elements of that.
I don't. Oh no, it's
domination. Yeah, definitely some of that.
Dominance, sadomasochism.
Yeah. So definitely is some of the D.
Yeah, I don't know. When I hear BDSM, I expect there to be at least some like tying up or blindfolds, and there wasn't.
Oh, see, the number one thing I think of is the dominance thing.
That's just par for the course for me for a lot of romance.
I don't know. He's not into eye. He's the classic not into eye contact. Only hit it from the back. Blah blah blah. So basically, like, not good for the woman.
He doesn't want emotion. He doesn't want emotion at all,
and he also doesn't want his partners to get off at all. Apparently, he's like, Ava's just so like, I expected her to have singing woodland animals while she traipsed through meadows or whatever it was girls like her did. Like, okay.
Oh, wait, Alex describes the women that he like chooses to fuck because he's like, you know, they're people who like don't expect an emotional attachment, any of that. And he's like, they knew better than to think about feelings around me.
Ridiculous.
He's so stupid. Anyway,
he's such a little
Josh
brat.
asks Alex to take care of Ava while he's away on his gap year because her ex Liam is harassing her.
Yes.
And Alex at first is like, no. And then, you know, he spends a few more minutes like staring at Ava. And then he's like, I have an idea. And Josh is like, you're the only one I trust not to fuck my sister.
Oh my God. No, he has like the most, this is where his like dramatic phrasing asking, here I was signing my life away, at least for a year. She was under my protection now, which I feel like is right. That's a dark romance line. And then he has a flashback to a blood-soaked room and 3 bodies. All right.
Yes. So we learned that Alex also has a traumatic backstory involving somehow his Ukrainian uncle, who is his only family. And I very much got like Batman vibes. And I think this was helped by the deep voice narrator from like, you know, dead family. And then like dead family leads to lifelong quest for vengeance and justice.
I legitimately don't think I know what a deep voice means because, sorry, I just realized like, because, okay, my ex, like everyone always, like he always said he's a really deep voice. Everyone always comments on high deep voice. That's not how it sounded to me at all. This narrator, no, it didn't sound that deep to me. This narrator sounds completely different from his voice. And yet it still doesn't sound deep at all to me. It sounds like tinny.
Have you ever heard a deep voice?
Yes. Like when I think of deep voice, I think of like, oh my God, what's his name? The God. Who's God all the time?
Morgan Freeman.
That's a deep voice. I feel like it needs the thickness for me to like think of it as deep.
I felt like this book did have a thickness.
No, it felt very tinny to me. I don't know.
It was like rumbly. I don't know. Interesting. Yes. So we learn that because of his dead family and whatever relationship he has with his Ukrainian uncle, Alex has been planning for the last 16 years. And just a reminder, he's 26 years old at this point. For the last 16 years, he has been looking for revenge.
Justice, vengeance, salvation. For 16 years, the pursuit of those three things had consumed me. 16 years might seem like a long time, but I specialized in the long game. Sir, you're 26. It doesn't matter how many years I have to wait as long as the end is worth it. You're 26! I specialized in the long game. I feel like that implies
he's been doing this for 16
years. You've had the opportunity to specialize in more than one game. Like this, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how many years. It implies that he's like been able to do this before, and not that he spent his entire life. What? Like, why make this is okay. This comes back to like when I was reading this.
Game. It's more than half his life.
I at first was thinking in my head, I was like, all right, she's still in college. For some reason, like I was 21 when I graduated college. I assumed she was like probably she's got to be under 21. She's like 20, and we know that Josh and Alex roomed together 8 years ago in college. So I was like, he's in the. I was like, why the fuck are they 20 and 28? But then like right after that, we find out they're like 22 and 26. But like, why not make her like? Why make her in college? Like, why not? And make him 26. Like, why couldn't they be like 27 and 35 or something? Like, that would have been so much. Is that common? Why do they have to be like, why 26? Why? Like, I specialize in the long game.
Well, the college heroine, especially for like these kind of like dark romance light books, is very common. And just in like dark romance in general, it's like very often like a younger heroine and like an older man. Like there's this mafia romance that I read. It was like, I think it was like the first mafia romance that I read. And it's called Cormac by Jane Henry, I think. And he's like 29 and she's 18.
What? Oh my God, that's okay.
It's like an arranged marriage. It's an arranged marriage, but it's creepy.
There's a TikTok sound that I wanted to find something to use for. I think dark romance is the right thing. The sound is like, here come the police. Whoop, whoop.
My God. Yikes. Okay. So now Alex is going to move into Josh's house. Of course. So he can keep a close watch over Ava. And Ava is like, I don't need protection. And Josh and Alex are like, little girl, leave it to the big men. And so Josh puts us off and Alex is brooding. And then Ava's like, I'm going to bring Alex red velvet cookies. She weasels his way into his house and sees that he doesn't have any personal photos. And he says, it's because I have memories. And I'm like, traumatic memories. Mm-hmm. And he goes, quote, right here, as he taps his head, because he has a condition that is a real condition that they definitely say the name of, and I didn't write down the name.
I didn't write it down.
Real
it's
condition.
Like HDSMF, whatever.
It is something. I remember learning about an AP Psych where you remember everything about your life. Like you remember literally every single thing that's ever happened to you.
Basically
and you cannot forget. Yeah. And it's actually like very much a curse. Much more. Like you may think that would be cool, but like definitely not.
Well, that's the thing is Ava's immediately like, oh, that must be horrible. And I feel like that's not. Like normally, I feel like most people would think it's cool at first, but
yeah, but Ava has like the traumatic backstory and she has her own like memory trauma TM, so like she's clued into that.
If you think about it, like you just would never let go of like any bad memory ever. Like if you like someone, you know what I mean? Like someone saying something mean to you like 15 years ago would be like just as poignant, or like, you know, a breakup or a death or anything.
Yeah, but when he was like, oh, I don't need any personal pictures because like I have my memories, and I was like, I just know. I spent the rest of the book. I was like, there's going to be a moment when he puts up a picture of her and it's going to show that he has fallen in love. And you know what? We don't really get it until the epilogue, but it's there. It happens. It happens,
and he complains about it.
Yeah. Like in his head, he's like his like grumble, broody, farce and farts man. You know, he's not actually complaining about it. Also, wait. They also, so all of Josh's furniture has been moved out except for this fancy abstract painting that is in Josh's house. This painting is mentioned so many times, and I was like, the painting's got to be relevant. Like, what is this abstract painting? Like, how is this going to fold into the plot? It doesn't at all. And like, I mean, when I get to Josh's book, Josh gets together with Ava's friend Jules. Basically, all of Ava's friends are like the heroines of the series. But when we get to that book, I'll report back if it like makes an appearance of significance like in that book. because just the number of times that they're like, yeah, Josh's abstract painting. And I was like, what is this painting? I don't understand why we keep learning about it. And listen, if anyone has like read the series, can you just please, can you tell me now whether the painting like makes a comeback in any other book? Because otherwise, like, it's going to set me up for a lot of disappointment.
Well, I feel like maybe Jules and Josh's book. Well,
that's what I was saying.
Painting,
like, I was like, maybe I was like, so maybe it'll be answered in Josh's book.
Yeah.
So if anyone has read Jules and Josh's book, which I think is the third book, please let me know if this goddamn painting, if we get an answer as to why this goddamn painting is mentioned so many times.
God. And Alex is like, so Alex does Krav Maga, like, which, if you don't know, is like the martial art of choice of the Israeli Defense Force. It's like pretty badass, whatever. Ew. And his immediate thought, what?
Did you write down a quote? I have a quote from like the beginning of the scene.
No. Maybe. I have a quote, but I don't know if it's the beginning.
The smell of sweat and violence stained the air.
And his first thought is like, oh, they're starting up new beginner lessons. I'm signing Ava up. Ava's going. And he's like, well, the more she stayed out of trouble, the more I could focus on my business and planning for revenge. The planning for revenge audiobook narrator delivery took me out. Like, I literally laughed out loud. It was so dramatic. Like,
it's incredible. It was 5 stars.
And then he's like, she'll stay out of trouble. I wouldn't mind more of those red velvet cookies though. Those were good.
He's so grumpy and pretty and dramatic. This man, this is the thing. It's like you read these. I don't know. For me, the way I read dark romance, I like don't take this man seriously. Like I treat these dark romance heroes in my head as like toddlers who are trying to be like tough, but like they're in their little oversized toddler leather jackets and toddler aviators.
I know, and I think again, like my criticisms at the beginning, I don't think they're not like an inherent part of the dark romance thing. Like it's basically it comes down to who is he mean to, right? Is he mean to his equals or betters, or is he mean to his inferiors?
But here's the thing about toddlers. They're mean to everybody. Toddlers are assholes.
The effect matters. I don't know.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, I laughed so many times. I was like, this man is trying so hard to be broody.
God.
But he's just a little marshmallow with chubby little cheeks.
His psycho shit that also almost took me out. Like, just
before this, we learned that both he has replaced her house's security system without asking her. Like, the guy just shows up one morning. He also runs background checks on all of her photography clients.
Oh, well, yeah. Wait, that's what I was about to say. Because he's about to have the thought. He checks his phone after Krav Maga and he's like, Ava hasn't texted me back in an hour. I told her to leave her phone on. I make her tell me where all her shoots are and I run background checks on all her clients. There are crazy people out there. I'm like, yeah, you were the crazy people. You. And then she doesn't respond in like 5 minutes. And he's like, unless she turned off her phone, something I told her never to do. And all because she didn't reply to his like, what you do in text, like literally like WYD. And then Alison, I want you to remember this. I want you to remember this because it shows the complete lack of character growth. This book is bookended with this incident, and then later on, he's going to turn his phone off and be like, "How do you have the nerve to tell me I have to leave my phone on?" Just the hypocrisy.
No, she gets mad at him for that.
She does.
Anyway. So he goes feral. He shows up at Ava's friend's.
This is the first road rage and being a dick to people.
Yes, but he thinks Ava's in danger.
Why would he think that? It makes no fucking sense. This is literally psychopath.
She never doesn't answer her phone.
And if she had actually been in danger, like if he had actually been right, his spidey senses, I would have like been okay with I would have been able to move on.
Listen, it's said multiple times because he shows up at her friend's Jules' house and he's like, "Has Ava ever not answered you?" And Jules is like, "No." And then Jules is like, "Fuck off, she's busy." And he's like, "Give me the address." And Ava's like, "This man." Jules, is insane.
No. Yes. No. Now, you know what he says? So Jules apparently is like doing an internship and he's like, I know your boss. I can derail your internship and get you like, you can fail for life if you don't tell me where Ava is.
And that's a common thread. He's commonly threatening to ruin people.
And then he's like,
here's the thing. I understand he is blackmailing Jules here. And that is bad. Bad. I recognize that. But I also think that it wouldn't have taken much to get Jules to give him the address.
So
because
once again,
Jules,
why have him do that?
for the rest of this scene, for the rest of the book, Jules is like this little chaos agent in the background, just like eating popcorn and like watching everything go to shit.
So what was the point of having him do that narratively? Like, what is
Because
that supposed to
it's
make
part
us?
of his character.
Yeah, that never goes away. It's part of what makes him a horrible person. Like, just like
he can ruin people because he's a broody alpha man. Okay, anyway, so he shows up.
No. He also has a thought. He's like, Jules Ambrose was one of the most dangerous women I'd ever met. She's a 22-year-old college student that you're trying to blackmail out of law school. Also, that annoyed me because clearly
looks like Jessica Rabbit.
Oh my God. Also, he's like, I'd done my research on all of Ava's friends. Jules is pre-law, and the internship between the students' junior and senior years was critical for admittance into a competitive law school. Like, what? Like, no, that's not a thing. Like, clearly we just didn't bother with that at all. Or the author's like Canadian and that's how it is in Canada. I don't know, but like, whatever. That's not a thing. Anyway. People don't read this and think like, what does that even mean?
I don't know, Rachel. I don't know. Maybe it's different for DC schools.
No.
Anyway, Alex is feral.
He kidnaps Jules. Jules.
No. Frankly, Jules just jumps in the car. She's like, can't wait to watch what happens next. They drive. Jules is like putting on like lip gloss in the car. And like Alex is like, like brooding. He jumps out of the car. He barges into her friend's house. He's like, the guy opens the door. He's like, is Ava here? And she's like, she's upstairs. But like, dude, you can't come in. And this man just like whacks the guy aside, barges upstairs, opens the door and sees that Ava is taking like some sort of sexy photo shoot for one of her photography friends. And he's like, how dare you take a sexy photo shoot with another man? And he like spews flames and Ava's like, bro, chill. And then he like grabs her friend's camera, forcibly deletes all of the photos and is like, I will kill you and your camera if you ever talk to her again.
Yeah,
and then he makes Ava leave.
Yeah, and the whole time I'm like, why is no one calling the police? Like, literally, he should be arrested for this. This is assault and battery and destruction of property. Assault, battery, destruction of property, possession of a dangerous weapon. Like, you can't come into someone's house without permission and ruin their stuff.
Rachel.
I want her to get a restraining order on him. Also, Jules is like baiting him on the way over, and she's like, maybe she didn't answer because she's having sex. And Alex is like, if she was having sex, even more reason to interrupt. College boys are some of the most dangerous creatures in the world. The same way Jules is the most dangerous woman you've ever met. Like, what? You're the only psychopath here. He's constantly projecting on other people.
I think college boys are the most dangerous is derogatory, but Jules is the most dangerous is like complimentary. Alex is like, yes, an equal. I see we are on the same level here. Wait, at one point, I don't know when he does it. I literally just wrote down the quote. He thinks, I don't know how humans survive this long. Most people were idiots.
Yeah, he's constantly thinking like that, which is like a huge red flag. He's so full of himself. I don't know.
And then he says he's looking at Ava's photographer friend and he's like, I hope Blondie enjoyed his working pair of eyes while he still had him.
Yeah, why is that a good thing?
It's dark romance.
But I just don't understand, like, why not have him interrupt on someone actually being a dick?
Rachel, that's not what dark romance is. It's not just justified aggression. It's like all the time alpha hole. All the time.
Then I
alpha
hate
hole.
it. I hate it.
Thank you. I'm glad that you finally admitted dark romance isn't for you, and that's okay.
Also, Ava tries to get the card back, and she, quote, scrambled over me like a fucking spider monkey. Hang on tight, spider monkey.
Hang on tight, spider monkey.
It was almost cute how she thought she could order me around. Yeah, you can order her around? Like, get out of here.
Yeah. I don't think that this was a Twilight fanfic, but I do think that Ana Huang almost definitely started out in Twilight fanfiction. And I mean, that's the case for a lot of romance novelists.
Sure.
Like Christina Lauren started out in Twilight fanfic.
And to be clear, this isn't derogatory. I'm just having fun, like, pointing out every single little Easter egg.
Sally Thorne started out in fanfic. Like, all of those people started out in fanfic.
He also threatens Ava with ruining that guy's career if she doesn't comply, and he's like trying to put it on her. He's like, you wouldn't want that, would you? There are 2 ways to threaten people: attack them directly or attack those they care about. I wasn't above doing either. So he even like turns that shit on Ava. It's literally giving like shitty parent and child. That's what it is. He's like a shitty abusive dad walking in and dragging her away. Anyway,
they're driving back. Ava's stewing in her juices, and Alex is like, I love the silence. It's my favorite thing. I hate when people fill it up with, useless chatter, but something compelled me to turn on the radio halfway through the drive.
But it wasn't like I cared about her silent
I don't care about it, but like, I just don't like the silent. Like right now, I just want to listen to music, like for no reason. Oh, yeah.
So then Ava meets up with her friend. So Ava, something I really like about Ava in a way that she's not like Bella Swan is that she very much is like other girls. Like she likes girly things. She has actual female friends that she like actually is friends with and isn't just like secretly judging.
Has like positive relationships with.
Yeah. And so there's Jules, there's Bridget, who's a literal princess, and then there's Stella, she's an Instagram model.
I don't know.
Stella's tall,
I keep forgetting that Stella existed, frankly. I kept being surprised that Stella was there.
I noted her just because she's specifically 5'11", and I think like Jules or Bridget is like 5'9", and that's also noted, but they're not like, oh, she's tall, because that's like I don't know, but you're not tall if you're 5'9". Like, sorry, get out of here. Stella exists too. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, except that Jules cooks up a plot. It's so convoluted and like unnecessary.
It's just an excuse to get them to spend time like Ava to go out of her way to spend time with Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jules is basically like, LOL, guys, you should have seen it. Like, Ava really gets under Alex's skin. Like, that's the only time I've ever seen him show emotion. So, like, we should see how far it goes. And gives her, like, a literal list of emotions for Ava to try to, like, make Alex feel. And what is it? It's, like, sadness, happiness, something, jealousy.
Yeah. Disgust and jealousy, like, grossed outness or something.
It's, like, classic. This is fabulous. Classic format.
Yeah.
And I thought there was gonna be like a time when he like finds out that it was like, when like she's all that, when she's like, am I a bet? Am I just a bet?
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like some sort of version of that. But, like, he never finds out. And honestly, like, by the time it gets to the point where I was like, wait, is he just never gonna find out? I'm like, I don't even think that he would really care.
Right. And like we just kind of forget about it. Like that's why I was saying it's not really necessary. Like I don't know, maybe a little bit.
It's there to get her to actively. We needed a reason for Ava to like spend time, to actively go out of her way to spend time with Alex, because otherwise, like, she wouldn't.
No, and I think here's the thing, Alison. You say he wouldn't care. Like, well, first of all, he's been like orchestrating. I don't know what. Maybe we don't know.
No. Don't.
Okay, never mind. All right,
this is a big twist. There's so many twists in this book. All of them predictable, but all of them like. I can't believe it.
Twisty. So we find out
twisted love, one might say.
And that in itself is a twist, because that's not the way you would think that the word
twisted together.
Wow. So we mentioned Ava, her like trauma. She also has nightmares, like night terrors, I guess, where she's like screaming. She's bad. Like, help me, mommy. Like, and it always happens at 4:44 a.m., which she says in Chinese culture, the number 4 is considered unlucky because the word for it sounds like the word for death.
Yes. Which I remember my college roommate, her dad is Chinese. She was like telling me she's like a dancer, and she was like at a dance competition. She had like a number, and she was like 444, and she was like, that was really unlucky because it means death. Yeah, it's always a 444, so remember that. That's important. But in this dream, Ava's like drowning, and she's like, her mom was like on the deck before she fell in the water, is like what she's remembering. So you're like, oh my god, did like her mom try to kill her? So keep that in mind, because it's about to get twisted.
Meanwhile, so Jules comes in and comforts her, whatever. Meanwhile, Alex is like ruining some man's business career. And the man's like begging, and he's like, oh, like, this is so boring. Like, he's literally a psychopath. And then he's like, I made a mental note to fire my assistant because she let someone get my number. And I was like, that escalated quickly. Like, are you kidding me?
But he's like, this is the first of many mistakes.
Okay, but I bet the mistakes are like the wrong number of raisins in his bagel. Like
He's thinking about, so Alex is an insomniac canonically. He only needs 2 to 3 hours of sleep with
no,
the
but he
occasional
naps
nap
throughout.
throughout the day.
It's not that he only needs that. That's just all he can get. Like that's probably why he's such an asshole, because his brain is quite literally like not functioning correctly.
I mean,
he's
listen,
early onset.
By the end of the book, Ava does have him. She's like, Alex is like, she's making me drink chamomile tea.
Gonna be
and
on
she's
sleep
like
schedule.
taking melatonin and like being on sleep schedule, and it's helping. I'm getting more sleep. It's great. But he's like, I can drink espresso before bed because I don't sleep.
God.
Okay. And then he sits in his chair after he ruins this random man's career. He sits in his chair and broods over his traumatic childhood memories and his sad first birthday as an orphan, in which his uncle Ivan took him to, I don't know, Giggleberry Fair and like tried to make him happy, but he was, a sad 11-year-old. And also vengeance with, in all caps. And this was the point I would like to note. At this point in my notes, I said, I'm calling it now that Uncle Ivan killed his parents and has been lying to him.
Nice. What I wrote down, well, he's like, how could birthdays be special if everyone had one, which also gave off very Voldemort vibes. But we learned the uncle had him go to therapy. So I was like, okay, at least the revenge thing wasn't his uncle's idea. Because I think he explicitly says like the uncle's like not into the revenge thing, but that's definitely not true. Later on, we find out.
The uncle's like helping him get in the revenge. Yeah.
It's a running theme of like, don't trust people who send you to therapy in this book. That's the lesson here.
Is that therapy will not help you, and don't trust people.
Throw you off the scent on that one.
But these people both they both need therapy. They just need to send themselves to therapy.
Well, it seems like they were getting. I just don't understand. Whatever. Like, it's just it's a cover up. So it's time for Ava's plan.
She goes over to Alex's house with some sad movies, including A Walk to Remember and Marley and Me, which are objectively sad movies. I have cried at Marley and Me the first time I saw that.
And I would say they're sadder than The Notebook. That's what she says.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No. Good. She's like, gotta make him feel sad emotions. But as she gets there, he's about to leave for a date with someone named Madeline. We find out shortly. But he's like, whatever. Like, Madeline was being annoying anyway. She's like trying to bring feelings into this. Like, I'm gonna hang out with Ava. No reason. It's just because Madeline's being annoying. It's not because I'd rather hang out with Ava. So they watch the movie, and what was it? Oh, this is like the first time they're talking after he, broken and entered into her friend's house. And she says something, she like criticizes him, and he's like, don't parade naked in front of other men again. And she's like, other men? Right. And I was like, yeah, Freudian slip. And then he cancels date.
Wait. You said his eyes were blue before, but I have written down I'd be giving him the silent treatment for days since he stormed in like an overbearing green-eyed tornado. So what's the truth?
Oh, maybe he has green eyes. The cover has blue eyes. That's the only reason I'm saying that.
No.
So maybe he actually has green eyes.
Other men. And then she's like, oh, I feel so guilty for ruining his date. But the thought that he was no longer going to dinner with some beautiful, mysterious woman, quote, pleased me more than it should have.
Bella Swan. Yeah, and so he cancels his date, and then we splash forward. They're like, it's at the end of Walk to Remember, and she's crying, she's sobbing, and he's essentially like, master your biological reactions. He's like, I don't have any tears. What's that? All that's missing here from Edward Cullen is like him reaching out and like swiping one of Ava's tears off her face. And
Edward would never be like, why are you crying? You know what I mean? That's not
yeah, so Ava's crying. And she's like, why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you human? Everybody cries at this movie. And he says, and this is a continuing refrain. He says, don't try to humanize me. I am not a tortured hero from one of your romantic fantasies. You have no idea what I'm capable of. And I just wrote, this goddamn drama queen.
No, I wrote, no, sorry, sir, you are.
But he's like, you're too trusting. And she's like, you're not trusting enough.
Well, that's where we keep being told she's so trusting and like has to see the good in people. But we're not given an example of that.
I mean, she like gives her dad a million chances despite having the heebie-jeebies.
That's just a symptom of abuse. That's not like having to see the good in people. That's just a symptom of abuse. Like, it's not. So he's not crying, and she's like, are you a robot? And then she like jokingly like touches his back to be like, where's the control panel? And he's like, don't fucking touch me. Or like, I forgot. He's like, whatever. But then like his response to that is to like grab her and like swing her around until she's straddling his leg. Of course. Just the nerve. It's just
of course. Of course.
He's like, I'm not a toy, Ava. Don't play with me unless you want to get hurt. Then she's like, you wouldn't hurt me, which is also very Twilighty.
And this is the point when he starts calling her Sunshine.
Which actually makes sense. It actually makes sense because he's shitting on her for being sunny.
Yeah,
so,
for being sunny.
Again,
also,
all we need is a reason.
The weather is super tied to this book. The number of times when it's like raining and then the sun comes out, especially at the end.
The rainbow thing.
Alex
that's the only time I noticed
in his office and it's like raining and then like Ava like, you know, we'll get to it, but then like, yeah, it was raining and then a rainbow comes out. Like the number of times that it's like, and then the sun came out when everyone's happy. Or like Alex is like, I can't see the sun anymore after they break up. Like the weather's very, very big. Yeah. So he calls her Sunshine and she's still straddling his lap and he's like, your bleeding heart is dripping all over me. And she thinks
he doesn't say, but he said it's dripping all over me. And she's like,
but he's like referencing her bleeding heart. Like, it's his like to previously conversation. And she thinks he means that her lady juices are like getting all over his pants. And this is so turned on.
The first of at least 2 times that she's like, I'm worried there'll be a wet spot on his leg.
So she like jumps off and she's like, whoa. And Alex is like, heh, smirks.
Alex is like, put it in. And she's like, what? He's like, the DVD.
So they start watching Marley and Me, but she falls asleep on the couch and he's so grumpy. He's like, it's raining outside and I have to carry her to bed because she can't go back to her house because she'll get wet and I can't wake her up because she's sleeping so peacefully. And I don't have a guest room. So because, I don't have any friend. He has a guest room, but it's not made up.
No furniture.
He doesn't have furniture in the guest room. So he's like, she has to come and sleep in my bed. Grumpy, grumpy, grumble, grumble, grumble. God. He's so grumpy. So, and then now we get a nightmare scene. We get a classic nightmare scene. If a heroine gets nightmares or has a traumatic backstory and they're sleeping in a bed, you know there's going to be a nightmare scene.
So she starts having night terrors and he's like, I almost smoothed a hand over Ava's brow before I caught myself.
No. But when he first wakes up, because Ava screams and that's how he wakes up, and he thinks her scream is like an intruder in the house. And this man whips out a gun from I don't even know where. He just pulls out a gun. He's like ready to shoot.
Wait, I definitely wrote that down, but I can't find it. Oh, we're like skipping. There's a lot of my notes.
We'll say them.
First of all, he gets a thought. He's like, I'm going to ditch Madeline because she was like mad about me canceling. It cements my decision. I'm like, all right, you canceled your plans with her last minute for someone else and she's not allowed to be mad. It's giving Bella Swan being like, what does Jessica need? A written apology? Like, no, but like an apology would be nice. And then he gets into bed with Ava and he's like, a gentleman would sleep on the couch. But of all the insults people have thrown my way over the years, gentleman wasn't one of them. He also, so while he's like looking at Ava having a nightmare, he's like, she wouldn't last a day in the real world. Like, meanwhile, this is her childhood trauma. He's like, she was so delicate. How easy it would be to crush her head. Okay, Edward. What? But yeah, the gun next to the bed thing, like that just seems like a recipe for disaster. Like that's exactly why you shouldn't keep a gun there because it's so easy for like a family member to walk in and you're like half asleep and you're like an intruder and then like shoot them.
I know. Okay, so anyway, Ava wakes up and she's on top of him. And briefly she's like, oh my God, did we sleep together? And he's like,
is she on top of him or is her hand just on his dick? Like
she's like half on top of him and her hand is on his dick.
Okay.
And Alex is just like, but and then we get a Twilight reference. Do you remember what this is? Because he specifically calls out sparkly vampires. We get an overt Twilight reference.
He says,
but it's disparaging our boy Edward.
Okay. So Ava's first thought is like, oh no, Josh would kill me. I couldn't even blame him. I'd slept with my brother's best friend. And wait, can I just do a little detour? So this is a logical. So I always forget. There's so many books where like the drama is that it's your brother's best friend and like, you know, you can't date him. And there's such a logical reason for this. Like, it makes complete sense that you wouldn't necessarily want your sibling to date your best friend because A, it's your best friend. And then they kind of be like, quote unquote. But also, like, if they break up, it's so awkward, right? That's complete. You don't even need more than that. But these books always make it into some weird protective shit with the brother. And this book, up until like the last, like, 25% did so well with that. Like, that's all you need. You don't need some like weird bullshit, like incestuous. I don't know. It's just always so fucking weird to me. So Ava's like, well, even if you weren't Josh's best friend, like, you're not my type either. And that's when he's like, so what is your type? And she's like, Ian Somerhalder. And that's when he's like, better than a sparkly vampire. Who is Ian Somerhalder?
He's Damon in the Vampire Diaries.
Oh, gross.
What?
He has a very
Him and
weird
Nikki
face.
Reed are married.
I mean, she has a weird face too. He's probably a nice person. He has nice eyes, but his mouth is just so weird to me. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Let's not disparage Ian
I don't
on this podcast. Anyway, so
well,
yeah,
no, let's not disparage Nikki
he's like,
Reed.
at least it's not like a sparkly vampire or whatever. And I was like, do you just see too much of yourself in Edward Cullen? You don't want to admit that you are him.
And that's when she's like, stop calling me Sunshine. And he's like, it's a nickname. His chin is just too pointy.
Ian Somerhalder?
Yeah, that's what it
I don't
is.
think he has. Okay. All right. Anyway, now Ava, we're back to the emotions checklist because, just to keep the plot going. And Ava's like, okay, I got to make him feel disgust. Like sadness didn't work out, but I got to make him feel disgust. So she makes him like really shitty cookies, like really, really disgusting sounding cookies. And
asparagus and garlic brittle, which doesn't sound a bad combination.
It doesn't sound that, but I guess like if it's with sugar, you know what I mean? If it's like cookie.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, so she brings them to him and he like takes a bite and she's like, ooh, he's going to be so disgusted. And then he's like, they're fine. And then he just eats the whole cookie and like walks away. And she's like, what? How could this be?
I didn't realize until the end of this that she interpreted that as like, oh, he just like lied about liking them because he didn't want to hurt my feelings. Because to me, like, it's fine. It's not a compliment to the cookie. That's not being nice. Like, I interpreted it as like he saw what she was trying to do and he just like didn't want to act grossed out.
Oh no, I saw it. He's definitely trying to protect her feelings. And it's funny because later on, I forget when this happens, later on we get a quote about he's like, I wouldn't mind her making me those red velvet cookies again. They're delicious.
He said that before already. No, good. No, it's fine.
I think he's definitely trying to protect her feelings.
Yeah, but that's not like
but that's basically how
it
he reacted
work.
to the red velvet cookies. You know what I mean? Like that's very in character for him to be like, thanks, and then just like walk away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To not like rap poetic. What is it? Raps poetic.
Rap? Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Ian Somerhalder's face like almost exists in the uncanny valley for me. That's what it is. Something about it. It's like I know it's supposed to be handsome, but there's just something about it that's like not human. I guess he is a vampire. Anyway. Oh, 2 vampires together. Wow. Nikki Reed. Anyway. The next thing they do, she takes him on a picnic and he's like, the grass is covered in dog pee. And then a dog comes over and literally pees on his foot. Like, see, that's another indication that he's just not, dogs are great judges of character. Like I like how they're
fallen in love.
I like how by this point they're literally just going on dates. But it's supposed to be like, for no, like, makes no
great.
sense.
Okay, so now she's out with her girlfriends and Liam shows up and Liam is drunk and high.
Liam is her ex who cheated on her.
Yes. Liam has gotten into some sort of drugs. This is never really like the Liam plotline just kind of goes away. It's also one of those things that it's just there so that Alex will move in next door to her. Like that's why the Liam plotline exists. The same way the emotion list exists. It exists so that they spend time together.
Right.
So Liam shows up and he's like, can I just talk to you? And she's like, fine, we'll talk for 5 minutes. Like, and they go outside the restaurant. And he starts to manhandle her, like trying to beg for her back. Starts to manhandle her, and she knees him in the fucking balls, and it's fabulous. And I really appreciate this is the first of several times in which, like, I feel like in dark romance, like, and I mean, even just in romance in general, like those kinds of scenes would be a very like
he swoops in at the last minute.
He swoops in to save her. But like most of the time, like yes, like Alex saves Ava, particularly like at the end, but like there's not really a choice there. Right. But like a lot of the times Ava just like saves herself. And I really appreciated that like Ava's like with the pool and like later, even with Liam later, like she like headbutts him at a later altercation. And it's like I like that like
he takes her very much
can handle herself. And she does eventually start taking Krav Maga lessons with Ralph at, Alex's Krav Maga studio. So like I really appreciate that Ana Huang was like, I could go the easy route and have Alex like swoop in and save her every time, but like no, I'm going to show that Ava is like willing and able to kick a man in the balls at any time.
I do wish that like the first time had been like something to actually save her from, but whatever. Also, can I just say that so Liam has graduated and like what is it? Like why are all these men who graduated still hanging around college campuses and we're supposed to think they're not losers? Like what?
I don't know, because they're in DC, they're in a city. I don't know. Like I'm just thinking of like, listen, I think they are losers. Let me just put that out. But I'm just thinking of like in a city, like I'm thinking of like, say you live on the Lower East Side of New York. You're going to live near NYU's campus. You're probably going to like run into a bunch of NYU students all the time. But like you're not a loser just because you happen to live in a city that's
but if you're
like close
dating,
to a school.
you're like dating. Yeah, it's not just living close to it. It's like being so involved in the social life still.
Okay, but Liam was like a year older than her. Like Ava's a senior. You know, it's not that weird for a junior and a senior in college to date.
Mm-mm.
Or a senior and a guy that just
do we know that
anyway.
we're never told how much older than him? Whatever. All right, so now it's time for the gala. Another thing I like about Ava is that she's well able to get her own invitations to fancy shit.
Yeah, so she goes to an alumni event that Alex is there to like, I don't know, schmooze.
Play the long game. He's literally waxing poetic about keeping people in your orbit just to play the long game and like talking to this boring guy. And then literally 1 second later, he's like, sees Ava and he's like, oh, good. If I had to listen to him for one more second, I would have stabbed myself in the eye with a fork. Like so much for the long game. Get out of here. You can't even handle one conversation.
Even the best game masters can only play for so long. He sees Ava. She's in a sexy dress. He's in a sexy dress.
It's a Cinderella moment, like walking in.
And he is like, well, here's the thing. He's definitely already been turned on from her. So this isn't necessarily like his like, oh, she's beautiful moment. Because he's already like.
By Cinderella moment, I mean, everyone's staring at it. It's not just him. Like everyone's like, oh, who's that girl? Like,
who's that hot lady? Oh, okay.
Right.
So she comes in and he goes absolutely feral. And he's like trying to make a beeline for her, but he keeps getting like interrupted. Like people keep trying to come after her, which I just realized is a parallel to the ending scene when like Ava's looking for him and she keeps getting interrupted by people.
Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of bookends in this book. Yeah, I wonder if she just like use that like circle method, you know?
Maybe. Interesting. Okay. So anyway, so he's going for Ava, and then when he finally spots her again, that loser guy he was talking to is dancing with her, and he looks at him and he's like, she laughs at like something the guy says, and Alex is like, he didn't deserve her laugh.
And then he steps in. I know, and he proves that he's so Colton like immediately realizes what's going on. He's like, oh, sorry, man. And Alex is like, oh, we'll get lunch together next week sometime at this really fancy club that like you would love to go to. So like he proves that he knows how to use a carrot instead of a stick. Like he is fully capable of like, right? Like there's no reason to be bribing these like college students. I mean blackmailing these college students. He could just be bribing them. God.
Okay.
Also, right before this, Madeline accosted him and he's like, leave me alone. I'm not above ruining women. Like, get out of here. Anyway, they're dancing.
They're dancing. And Ava's like, you don't even know me. And this psycho proceeds to list all of these like
trivial fun facts.
Her. He's like, your favorite color is yellow. Meh. You say your favorite season. And like, this is summer. Like, I was like, oh, like he notices details about her. Like, this is cute. And then we get to her favorite season. And he's like, you say your favorite season is summer, but it's actually winter. And he turns, it's like some weird like adrenaline thing. Like he makes
so weird.
And I was like, sir, what are you doing? But then he traces her lips with his thumb and I promptly got over that.
He's like, my skin's prickling from the strange electric charge in the air. Twilight. He grabs her chin, tilts her face up. And then he's like, mine and vengeance's shadows twine and walk hand in hand, or like some bullshit. He's like, what I hated most about Ava was also what I loved about her. Darkness craves light as much as it wants to destroy it, which is a nice metaphor. But since darkness is the absence of light, isn't it technically always light destroying darkness, not the other way around?
Yeah, that's always what it is. The broody hero is like, I'm darkness, I'm going to put out her light. And then like the lesson learned in the end is like, actually, she brings light to your darkness. Yeah, anyway, so she's like, you don't know what I want. And he's like, obviously in his head, he's like, obviously I want vengeance.
No, it's actually pretty deep. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, he's like, I want vengeance. And she wants unconditional love, obviously. And he's making, the dark and light connection. And then he's like, it was already too late. She was mine. She just didn't know it yet.
That was good. That was good.
And
But
I was like, good. And I do appreciate that Ava, when he is like, oh, you just want to be loved. Like, you just want unconditional love. She immediately sees right through his broody nonsense. She's like, not having it. And she's like, you want love too, you dickhead. Like,
Yeah, she calls him
don't
on his
stop.
bullshit. Yeah.
Which is a comment, which is a
Wait, she
recurring
wasn't
theme.
smart enough.
Like,
yeah.
Ava really doesn't put up with a lot of Alex's bullshit.
Oh, and this is when I thought that since Liam cheated on Ava, she was going to think that like Alex was cheating with Madeline, but that just was not the direction that went in. Madeline exists to be mean for no reason and get shit on, basically.
Yeah, but then she like works with the big bad at the end to get Ava kidnapped. So
All right. And that's a wrap for part 1 of Twisted Love. Check us out next week with, you guessed it, part 2.
of emotionally unavailable men
And the women that
evil ex-girlfriends.
Yeah.
And the women that thwart them all. That twist them up into knots of love. Also the Catskill.
If you want to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at We Read It One Night, on Twitter at We Read It Podcast, and Gmail, We Read It One Night at gmail.com. Also, check out our merch on Redbubble. We got some awesome swag that Alison highlighted and debuted on the Instagram. If you followed us on there, you'd see it. And please leave us a rating and review. We will also start the next episode with a rating and review plea. It's so easy. Literally just tap the stars. That's it. And it will help us so much. Yeah. Do it right now, please.
Do it right now.
It'll
give you a dopamine boost, I promise.
Yes. Indeed. One free shot. Also, don't forget to get your flu shots. Speaking of boosts.
That's true.
Have won
and
the
your
family
COVID booster. Those are available at CVS, Walgreens, and Rite Aid.
Yeah.
Nationwide. If you're in the United States. If you're elsewhere, I hope that you too have access to COVID booster shots. But I don't know what your country's policies are. So look that up. They're available in the US.
Very
They're probably
easy.
available where you are too.
Google COVID booster for me. It'll come up.
For me. I just feel like that's somehow going to lead to like some like anti-vaxxer propaganda sites. Like,
quite possibly. Oh my gosh.
Don't type that in. But do leave us a rating and review. Make sure you get caught up on all your vaccines. Go to your annual checkup. Make sure everything's feeling good. Go to the dentist. You know, preventative care is important. This is
okay.
Neither of us are doctors. This is medical advice.
On that note,
give us your listener suggestions. Like this one was a listener suggestion. This is technically the last book in our listener suggestion summer, which
Twisted Love has no place in your healthcare. Anyway,
no. Don't Alex Volkov, not a doctor. Do not take any advice he may give in this book. But go get your flu shot. Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed.